Hello, and welcome everyone. It is wonderful to have you here tonight. And I have to admit, I just finished running around and from a long day. That's why, if you're watching over video, if you're not listening but you're watching, you will see that I'm wearing a beret, a red beret. Anyhow, I am here in New York City and it is cold, but it is better than the last few days. So, whoever you are, whether you are a subscriber, a Self Worth Hub member, or just someone stopping by, say hello. Let me know where you are joining from. Let me check in the comments. And I am just grateful to have you here tonight. Let's see. And if this is your first time, I want to say thank you. All we want to do is create a safe space for you because sometimes we just need a place where we can be compassionately heard and seen or share some wins. This is our compassionate weekly accountability meetings and Q&A. So whether this is your first time or you've been joining regularly, my name is Karina Ivar Jacobs. I am a licensed therapist and coach, and I want you to know that this is a safe, compassionate space for reflection, connection, and growth. So don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos, our live streams every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, because we are here to live unapologetically and heal and thrive. And tonight we're diving into an important topic, which is deeply personal. And it has come up a lot this week because I published my latest video was on emotional flashbacks. And if you have experienced complex trauma or parentification, which often leads to complex trauma, you may experience these intense emotions that you realize, wow, why do I feel this so deeply? Why am I feeling this so intensely without any explanation? And we'll get to that in a moment. Let me check in with everyone. Say hello if you are here and share wherever you are watching from. Just happy to have you here. And as always, I invite you to engage in the comments, share your thoughts only if you feel comfortable, and take notes. Any insights, aha moments, I would humbly encourage you to take note of that. This is your space for learning, processing, and to feel supported, hopefully. So, first, let's talk about what CPTSD is, which stands for Complex Post Traumatic Stress Disorder. And CPTSD, complex trauma, is a psychological condition that develops after prolonged, repeated exposure to emotional, physical, or psychological trauma, especially in situations where escape wasn't possible. And unlike PTSD, which you probably might have heard of, which often stems from a single traumatic event, CPTSD is the result of ongoing relational trauma, often occurring in childhood or within toxic relationships. And I want to share some common sources with you and see if you resonate. And it is okay if you do not feel comfortable sharing. Um, this is a space for psychoeducation, healing, and growth. And this is not meant to substitute any medical advice. Okay? I want to share some sources. For example, growing up with emotionally immature, neglectful, or abusive parents. And let me make it clear sometimes it may be evident but sometimes it is not. If you have experienced prolonged emotional neglect where your needs were not met as a child and there are attachment wounds, you are more susceptible to developing complex trauma or CPTSD. Experiencing chronic emotional invalidation and feeling unseen, unheard, or unimportant, or being the family's emotional caretaker. When you are parentification, where you had to suppress your needs to care for others, whether those were siblings, your own parents, becoming a parent's emotional confidant, becoming a parent's caretaker, whether through any fault of their own or because of circumstances out of their control, parentification can happen as well. Another source that I want to share with you is surviving toxic romantic or workplace relationships where you were constantly manipulated and gaslit. Those are some sources, of course, due to us being on a live stream and the limited time. This is not an exhaustive list, but just to give you an idea of some of the most common sources of complex trauma. And now I want to transition. Comment I if you feel comfortable and you resonate with this. And now let's transition to how CPTSD affects the brain. And research in neuroscience shows that chronic trauma rewires the brain. It keeps the nervous system hyper alert to danger. Even in safe situations, the amygdala, that almond shaped part of the brain, which is the fear center, is overactive. It's very hyperactive, causing heightened emotional reactions. Then you have, and I know we're getting a little bit technical here, but just to give you an idea, we have the prefrontal cortex, which is the logical brain. Think of it as your logical brain, which is underactive when you have complex trauma. So it makes it hard to regulate your emotions. And then the hippocampus, which is the memory center, misinterprets the present as the past, causing emotional flashbacks. So basically, you are catapulted to your childhood. And in my latest video, I spoke about this and it resonated with a lot of folks. And I received some direct messages online after some folks watched the video, some emails because I shared it within my newsletter. And apparently it resonated a lot, where some of my members, some of my subscribers were sharing that, wow, this is me. And I didn't know that it had a name, where they actually felt that because of an incident they had with a romantic partner, with somebody not answering them, it just transported them back to their childhood, to that feeling where they were abandoned, where they were dismissed. And that is very likely an emotional flashback. Okay, I want to pause and see if any of you will feel comfortable to say hello or share your thoughts. And if not, that is okay too. Okay. So this is why someone with CPTSD may experience emotional triggers, intense reactions to the present day situations that unconsciously remind them of past trauma. Then you have flashbacks, feeling emotionally or physically transported back to past pain. Dysregulated nervous system, constantly feeling on edge, right? like this fight or flight response. So you may fight, get very defensive, get angry and lash out, or you may flight, or you just completely avoid, just flee the scene, or indulge in workaholism, BCism, as Pete Walker from the renowned book and someone who I admire, which is Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. I love that book, highly recommended, by the way, if you want to learn more about CPTSD and its symptoms and ways to heal. And or you have emotionally numb responses, which is the freeze response, where you literally become a couch potato, where you feel just helpless, or the fawn response. And I know that fawn is not such a common word, but fawn simply means that you people please. For example, because you feel helpless or don't feel like you have the power to change circumstances, your coping mechanism may be to people please, to be very pleasant, to avoid conflict or confrontation, or being rejected or abandoned. Then you may resort to people pleasing, right? And with that in mind, let's talk about emotional triggers in CPTSD. So we hear this word a lot, right? Triggers. Oh, that triggered me and this and that. But we want to talk about emotional triggers. And triggers are reminders of past trauma that activate strong emotional reactions. Again, they activate strong emotional reactions, and they can be words, they can be tones of voice, facial expressions, places, situations, or even internal thoughts. And let me be clear that because if you develop complex trauma as a result of growing up with dysfunctional family dynamics, prolonged exposure to emotional neglect, feeling dismissed growing up, as an adult, we can become so attuned to other people's body language, withdrawal, their facial expressions. It's almost like what I like to call, or what I often witness, is that people think like, wow, no, I'm a psychic, You have these psychic abilities, and it almost feels that way, right? But what happens is that you can also be prone to codependency, because you're often checking on others. Are you okay? And you almost personalize the need to fix and to take care of the other person. And you are checking if they change their body language, or you sense their energy, their expression, and they're not okay. You just feel compelled to just check in and take it upon yourself to make them happy or feel okay, even though that responsibility does not belong to you, right? So people with CPTSD often have heightened sensitivity to rejection, to abandonment, to criticism, or power imbalances. And I want to talk about why these triggers feel so intense. Your nervous system doesn't just remember the event, it remembers the helplessness, the shame, or fear associated with it. And when triggers are present, when triggered, your brain overrides the logic, right, that and reacts as if you are in danger. And I want to give you an example, right? Let's see. Let's say you had a controlling or dismissive parent who always told you that your feelings were too much, or you were too whiny, or I'll give you something to cry about, right? Does that resonate? Comment I if you resonate, if it feels comfortable, of course. I know that this is a especially delicate topic, and some of you may not feel comfortable sharing in the comments, but if you do, feel free to do so or ask any questions, okay? So now, as an adult, if a friend or boss or a partner, if a partner ignores or dismisses your feelings, you might instantly feel panic or shame or rage. You feel that rage. And your emotional brain, your emotional brain doesn't see the present moment because it is reliving the past rejection that you experienced as a child or growing up with your family, your caretakers, your first attachment. And I want to give you a reflection question. Can you think of a recent situation where your reaction felt bigger than the moment called for? What deeper wound might have been activated? Think of a time. Please write it down. Feel free to share it if you feel compelled to, right? And now let's talk about what flashbacks are, right? What is a flashback? We talk about that, we hear that. I also talked about this in my latest video. And a flashback is when past trauma intrudes into the present, emotionally, physically, or even visually. It's a reliving rather than a remembering. Okay. You could remember actually, but you feel it the most. And I want to talk about two types of flashbacks. There are emotional flashbacks, which are sudden waves of shame or terror or helplessness without a clear cause. And then you have the sensory flashbacks that you feel, which is reliving trauma through images, sounds, or bodily sensations. And why do emotional flashbacks happen, right? Well, that is because the brain misinterprets a present situation as past danger. So let's see, let's think of an example, right? A very common one that I witnessed with my clients, my members, and I will not lie, myself in the past as a recovering parentified daughter and anxiously attached person, right? Prior to doing this work. And an example I want to give you is, let's say you send a text to someone and they don't reply, right? So instead of assuming that they are busy, you spiral into feelings of abandonment. Your mind floods with thoughts like, they don't care, I must have done something wrong, or, they're going to leave me, they're going to abandon me, they may be with someone else that they care more about. But what's really happening, right? What's really happening? You are reliving childhood neglect. Not just non-answer text, right? But you are literally reliving childhood neglect and abandonment. So again, let me give you another reflection question. Have you ever felt emotionally transported back to painful time, even when nothing obvious triggered it? Okay? Have you felt like you have been transported back to the past? Okay? And let me pause before I give you some healing strategies. And if you want more, please check out my latest video on emotional flashbacks. For now, let me also check if you feel comfortable. Let me know where you are watching from. I would love to hear from you. All right. I have to admit, when I have conducted the live group calls and it is around, let's say, healing the mother wound, the father wound tends to be easier for my members. They're predominant, well, they're women identifying folks. And I find that when we talk about complex trauma, healing the mother wound, and attachment, if it's related to romantic relationships, folks are more open to share. But when it comes to these sensitive topics, there's more hesitancy. I just wanted to put that out there, and it is okay. It's completely okay. I hope that you are finding this information helpful. So, some simple but powerful healing strategies that I can offer you tonight before we close this live stream is to recognize that it is a trauma response. I want you to pause and name it. This is a trigger. This is a flashback. I am safe. I want you to remind yourself, I am reacting to the past, not the present. Okay? That is very important to say it out loud. That's why cognitive behavioral therapy works. Because when we pay attention to our thoughts and we affirm ourselves, we tell ourselves, I am learning instead of I'm a failure or I'm stupid, which unfortunately so many people do. It is so harsh. We are rewiring our brain with self compassion instead of shame and criticism. And when we experience complex trauma or CPTSD, we have a very heightened inner critic. That is a hallmark of CPTSD, a very activated, very harsh inner critic. And sometimes that translates into an outer critic towards others, right? Avoid the imperfect others, right? They don't know. They're going to let me down. I cannot trust their judgment. Let me isolate. So that could happen too. So I want you to ground yourself in the present moment when you are having a flashback. Say it out loud. This is a trigger. I'm not in the past. I'm in the present and I am safe now and I have options. Okay. And I also want to give you some somatic, some self touch. Put your hand over your heart and say, I am here. I am safe. This is now. And this is a way to soothe your nervous system. Okay. And another way that you can soothe your nervous system is to inhale for 4. Maybe let's do that together if you feel comfortable, right? Let's take a deep breath in through your nose or however it feels more comfortable. In through your nose, expanding your belly. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold it for 4. And exhale for 6. I have to say, breathing is life, literally. Breathing is everything. And you always have grounding, breath work at your disposal. Okay, breath work is everything. If you can work and pay attention to your breath, okay? And engage in rhythmic movements as well, after you are done, which translates into going for a walk or rocking or stretching, right? Something that I like to teach my clients and members is the butterfly hug, okay? And if you are watching via video, it is basically this, right? You place both of your hands on your chest and you tap, tap. In the direction that you are tapping, you rock, gentle rocks. Notice that babies, they fall asleep when they're being rocked. And we forget that we have all of these resources, what I like to call IRS, not the taxes, guys, but our internal resources system. We all have them internally, so use them. When we are babies, we know how to breathe. We breathe through our bellies, and we like to be rocked. We also rock to soothe ourselves, and that is so helpful. Simple yet powerful. Okay. Another technique is to use sensory grounding, right? Hold an ice cube or touch a textured object like my blanket behind me, or drink cold water. And let me take a sip now. That was good. Actually, I needed that. So, with that, it is important to work on replacing toxic beliefs. Perhaps you are thinking, or your inner critic is telling you, I am unworthy. I, you know, Nobody cares about me. That's why I cannot trust anyone. And instead, I would invite you to replace those thoughts with I deserve love and care. Okay. Or that person is busy. They care about me, but they cannot be available every time. That is one way. Or if you believe I will always be abandoned, I cannot trust others, you can replace the thought with not everyone will leave me. Whoever is meant to be in my life will be in my life. Also, whoever deserves to be in my life will be in my life. So I would invite you to affirm yourself in this way, right? So let me know if you feel comfortable. What grounding technique are you going to practice, right? So let's do a little community check-in and intentions for the week, as we usually do during our compassionate weekly accountability meetings, or WAM live stream every Sunday, right? So let's see. Let me know, what triggers have you noticed lately, right? And what is one grounding strategy that you can commit to this week? Let me know. If you are watching the replay, it is okay. I will get to it. I read every single comment, so drop it in the comments. And what support do you need right now? Because you deserve care and support. We tend to fall into this hyper independence trap. Please do not. Your inner child needs to be held, supported, and cared for. So drop your thoughts in the comments, because healing from CPTSD or complex trauma doesn't mean never getting triggered. Absolutely not. But what it means is learning to respond with compassion instead of fear. So I want you to take a deep breath. Because you are doing the work. You are not alone. And I am so proud of you for showing up. I would love to see you next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And remember, if you are a Self-Worth Hub member, we are also meeting in a more intimate space during Zoom this coming Wednesday. And the winner of our monthly gift card will be announced then. So make sure that if you haven't downloaded our app, our Self-Worth Hub app, please download it. If you're not a member, consider joining our Self-Worth Hub. Check it out in the link below in the description. I cannot wait to see you wherever you are. Just know I am grateful for your trust and for allowing me to be a part of your journey. And please remember your resilience. Subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everyone. Good night.